Rose was rejected, stripped of dignity, told she was unworthy of being loved, unworthy of being a Luna. But destiny has its own rules. The moment Garvin cast her aside, something ancient awakened in her blood, something neither he nor his pack understood. Moon-blessed, shadow-marked, chosen. Now, Act 2 begins. Rose isn't the trembling Omega who was forced to kneel. She is the girl who ran into the wild. And the moon answered. Because sometimes, the bond that breaks you is the one that frees you. Tonight, she steps into a world where wolves bow to the moon priestess, and a mysterious warrior watches her like she's a storm he's waited his whole life to feel. Rose is done surviving.
Part 2. Chapter 9. The night swallowed her whole. Branches whipped against Rose's arms as she sprinted deeper into the wilderness, barefoot and trembling. The moonlight rippled across her skin like liquid silver, not the gentle glow she had known all her life, but something sharper, hungrier. It was as if the moon was no longer just watching her. It was guiding her. Her breath came fast, fogging the cold air. The forest smelled of moss, pine, and rain-soaked earth, nothing like the suffocating stone walls of Garvin's pack. Every step away from them was freedom. Every step hurt. Her wolf, that strange duality of moon-blessed light and shadow-born fire, paced inside her mind. Two forces, two souls. Their voices overlapped. Run. Fight. We are not prey anymore. But her legs trembled beneath her. The adrenaline was fading, and the raw sting of rejection rippled through her chest, like claws digging deep into her heart. Garvin's voice still echoed in her memory, cold, dismissive, final. "You're unworthy of being my mate." She bit down on her lip until she tasted metal. No, she refused to cry. Not anymore. She ducked under a fallen log and collapsed into the hollow shelter of a massive oak. The canopy overhead shielded her from moonlight, leaving her in shadow. She hugged her knees to her chest, trying to steady her breathing. Moon-blessed. Shadow wolf. She still wasn't sure what that meant. Her body still buzzed with unfamiliar power. Her veins felt like rivers of starlight and darkness intertwining an impossible combination. "I don't understand," she whispered to no one. The shadows around her shifted, almost as if they responded. A flicker of silvered light brushed her cheek, like the moon itself stroking her skin. Her wolf spoke again, voice soft but resolute. "You were chosen." Rose swallowed hard. Chosen for what? Silence. But in her bones, in her blood, she felt it destiny. Something bigger than rejection, bigger than Garvin. Somewhere in the distance, a twig snapped. Rose shot upright. Her heart pounded. Her wolf roared inside her head, ready to fight, ready to tear apart anything that threatened them. Footsteps, heavy, uncertain. Garvin? Pack warriors? Had they followed her? But no, the scent carried through. The wind was different, crisp, foreign, tinged with ancient herbs and moon-blessed incense. Whoever, whatever approached did not belong to her old pack. A woman's voice drifted through the trees. Calm, powerful. "Rose of the Silver Fang line, the moon has called you." Rose's breath hitched. She stepped forward, and through the thick shadows, emerging like she was part of the night itself, stood a tall woman cloaked in white and silver. Her irises glowed with pale luminescence, moonlight trapped in human form. The moon priestess. Rose had heard whispers about her. A ruler of a distant pack. A guide for the lost. A voice for the moon herself. The priestess smiled, not kindly, but knowingly, as if every secret Rose carried was written across her skin. "Your destiny begins tonight." Rose felt her pulse falter. Not from fear, from recognition, from belonging. "Why me?" she whispered. The priestess stepped closer, brushing Rose's cheek with a gloved hand. The touch sent a spark through her entire body, not romantic, but awakening. Because you are the Luna the moon chose. And the shadow fears. The forest held its breath. Rose stood straighter, shoulders trembling but no longer collapsing inward. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running away. She was running toward something. Toward power. Toward truth. Toward destiny. The moon priestess moved through the forest like she wasn't touching the ground at all. Rose followed her, branches parting before the priestess, as if the trees bowed to her presence. The air grew colder, charged like every molecule hummed with power. Rose's heart stumbled in her chest. What am I walking into? The priestess didn't look back, but her voice carried through the night. You're safe now, Rose, but safety is not the same as comfort. Rose swallowed. I'm not looking for comfort. A small smile curved the priestess's lips. Oh, you will. Power demands it. They stepped into a clearing and suddenly, the world changed. Silver lanterns lined a pathway of white stone. A waterfall spilled into a crystal pool that reflected the moon perfectly, undisturbed by wind. Wolves stood guard along the edge of the clearing, tall, scarred, intense. And then, him. A man emerged from between two pillars. Dark hair tousled as if wind loved to play with it, sharp jaw shadowed with stubble. His shoulders were broad, posture disciplined, but his eyes caught her breath. Storm grey, focused, and dangerously unreadable. He walked toward the priestess, boots silent on the moss. Every wolf nearby straightened, and even Rose sensed the shift. Authority. The priestess inclined her head. Cassian. So this was Cassian. Second in command, the priestess's right hand, and from the way the wolves watched him, probably feared by every one of them. His gaze flicked to Rose, and the world seemed to narrow to just the two of them. Slowly, deliberately, Cassian looked her over, not with lust, but with a soldier's precision, like he was trying to understand what she was made of. Rose felt heat crawl up her neck. His voice was low, rough. This is her? Rose hated that her pulse reacted before her mind did. The priestess nodded. The moon blessed, and shadow-marked. Cassian's jaw clenched at shadow-marked. The tension wasn't subtle. If she carries shadow, she's a threat. Rose's wolf growled inside her, reacting to the challenge. And if I am? Rose shot back, chin high. Cassian took one step closer. Only inches separated them. I've handled threats before. Her pulse shouldn't have jumped at that. But it did. The priestess lifted a hand power crackling at her fingertips. Cassian, she is under my protection. Cassian didn't look away from Rose. He held her gaze with the kind of intensity that burned. Protection is earned here. Rose swallowed. Then point me to what I need to earn. He studied her, really studied her like he was trying to see beneath her skin. There was no pity in his eyes. No rejection. No disgust. Only awareness. And a flicker of curiosity, dangerous, slow, and deliberate. Finally, Cassian spoke. I'll take her. Rose blinked. What? To the sanctuary, he clarified. To train. To learn control. But the way he said take her made something flutter deep and unwelcome in her stomach. He stepped aside and gestured to the pathway. Stay close. Our lands are alive. Strangers don't stay strangers for long. Rose followed him, unsure if he meant that as a warning or something else entirely. As they walked, Cassian leaned slightly toward her, close enough that she caught the scent of him. Pine. Storm. And something darker. Why did you run? He asked quietly. Rose's throat tightened. I wasn't wanted. Cassian stopped walking. He turned to face her, fully no distance this time. His voice dropped to a low, unhurried promise. Someone else's blindness doesn't define your worth. Her breath caught. That was the moment the forest seemed to hush, as if even the wind stopped to listen. Rose's chest ached, not from pain, but from the unfamiliar sting of being seen. Before she could respond, Cassian continued walking, voice steady. "But here, Rose." He glanced back at her, something unreadable in his eyes. "We will see what you truly are." And beneath his stoic exterior, she felt it. The pull. Not mate bond. Not destiny. Something more dangerous. Possibility.
Chapter 10. The first rays of moonlight filtered through the translucent canopy above, painting the sanctuary in pale silver and blue. Rose stirred, her eyelids fluttering against the unfamiliar glow. The air smelled faintly of herbs and something wild, something alive. Every nerve in her body screamed alert, and yet she felt safe. For the first time since Garvin's rejection, she allowed herself to breathe. Her muscles ached from the escape, the running, the fear. She shifted on the soft mattress of woven moss and linen, and the faint sound of her heartbeat felt like a drum in the quiet chamber. Symbols of the moon glimmered on the walls, delicate, intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with energy. Her pulse, she realized, was sinking to it, slow and steady despite the lingering terror in her chest. A soft noise at the doorway made her flinch. She rolled to the side, instinctively shifting her form for defense, though her wolf remained dormant. "Rose?" The voice was calm, gentle, almost melodic. It carried no command, no judgment. She froze. Her instincts screamed predator and prey, yet something in the tone called to her. Who's there?" Her voice was hoarse, brittle. From the shadows stepped a figure, small and elegant, a woman whose presence radiated warmth. Hazel brown eyes, gentle, framed by dark braids, falling to her waist. "I'm Tala," the woman said softly. "Healer, you're safe here, I promise." Rose wanted to recoil, to say no, to run, but something about Tala's voice, steady, nurturing, anchored her. Slowly, trembling, she lifted herself to sit. "Safe," she repeated, almost in disbelief. I don't know what that means anymore." Tala stepped closer, placing a small hand on Rose's wrist. It was a touch that didn't demand, didn't judge, just existed. Rose shivered at the warmth. Her fingers twitched, the ghost of her wolf stirring beneath her skin. She realized she wanted to trust this place, even as every cell screamed caution. "Moonlight," Tala murmured, guiding her gaze to the carvings. "It's stronger here. You'll heal. Your power, it's rare, more than you realize. You are not just a survivor, Rose. You are chosen." Rose's lips parted, a laugh threatening to escape, but it caught somewhere in her chest. She swallowed, looking down at her hands. The faint traces of energy left behind from her awakening tingled along her skin. Moon and shadow, they called it. Power that shouldn't exist in someone so fragile. She had never felt fragile before. Then a shift at the doorway made her stiffen again. This one was different. Stronger, controlled, every step calculated. Cassian. Even from the threshold, he dominated the room, and yet he didn't move to command, didn't approach like an alpha asserting control. His dark eyes were unreadable, trained on her every movement, watching without letting her forget he saw everything. "Cassian," Tala said gently, a slight lift in her brow. "He's observing. He'll be assigned to stay with you for a time." Rose's stomach dropped, observed, watched. She felt a flicker of irritation, and beneath it, something else she didn't recognize, a pulse of awareness that made her heart skip. He wasn't here to threaten her, not exactly, but every glance, every measured movement made her pulse pound a little faster. Cassian's gaze didn't waver. He noted the way her hands trembled, how her shoulders hunched, how her wolf stirred beneath the surface. He didn't comment. He didn't reach out. Yet the air between them hummed with an unspoken question. Who are you? Rose, for her part, wanted to turn, to flee to Tala's safety. But part of her, the part still bristling with moonlit fury, the shadow edge that whispered she was not a girl to be caged, felt an odd pull toward him. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to meet his gaze. There was nothing mocking there, nothing cruel, only the weight of quiet judgment, and something else, curiosity, admiration. She bit her lip. "Observe me," she said softly, her voice firmer than she felt. "See what I am. See if I break." Cassian's lips twitched, almost imperceptibly, as he inclined his head. "I'm already seeing more than you know," he said, voice low, carefully measured. A shiver ran through her at the tone, an awareness she wasn't ready to name. Tala's hand squeezed hers. "Rest, eat, heal. Let your mind and body acclimate. And don't worry about him for now. He'll adjust." Rose closed her eyes for a moment, the moonlight bathing her face. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of magic and the distant rustle of leaves outside. She thought of Garvin, the rejection, the bond never completed, the ache that lingered. And then she thought of Cassian, standing silently in the shadows, unwavering, watching. And she realized, for the first time in weeks, she felt seen. And she didn't hate it.
Cassian stayed near the doorway longer than necessary. His posture was relaxed yet alert. His eyes traced her every move with the intensity of someone cataloging a puzzle he didn't want solved too quickly. Rose could feel it, the awareness that weighed against her chest like a tangible presence. She shifted on the mattress, brushing a strand of hair from her face. And she knew he noticed. Her pulse accelerated. But she refused to give in to embarrassment. She would not flinch. Not anymore. "Eat something," Tala said softly, producing a bowl of warm porridge. Rose stared at it. She hadn't felt hunger in days. Her hands shook as she took the bowl. Cassian stepped closer, just enough to be in the corner of her vision. He didn't reach for the bowl or speak. Nothing overt. Yet his proximity stirred something inside her, a heat that had nothing to do with the physical effort of survival, and everything to do with being watched, understood, analyzed. "Don't choke," he said finally. His voice was low, measured, a slight edge of amusement threading through the calm. Rose froze. The heat rose to her cheeks. He wasn't mocking, but something about the casual precision of his words, it felt intimate, daring, electric. She took a small bite, keeping her gaze lowered. Cassian's eyes flicked to her lips, then back up to her eyes. He said nothing. But the weight of his gaze lingered. Heavy and deliberate. Until it felt like the air between them had condensed. "You always watch like that?" she asked softly, testing the line. Her voice was steadier than she felt. "Only when it matters," he replied, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. The words were casual, but the implication was anything but. Rose's stomach tightened. "Why does he make me feel like this?" Tala cleared her throat. "He's careful. Protective." Rose's gaze snapped to Cassian. He didn't flinch. Did he even hear her? Or was he intentionally ignoring her while making her hyper-aware of every inch of his presence? She set the bowl down and took a deliberate step toward him. The floor beneath her was soft, padded with a mossy weave. Yet every movement felt like a test. A delicate balance between challenge and submission. Cassion's jaw tightened, though his expression remained unreadable. He shifted slightly, closing the distance between them without overstepping. Until she could feel the warmth radiating off him, heat that didn't belong to the room or the moonlight, but to him. Her breath caught. She wanted to look away, to retreat. But the shadow part of her, the wild, instinctive edge, whispered differently, "Stay. See what this is." Cassion's hand hovered near her shoulder, not touching, yet close enough that the electricity of proximity pulsed through her. Rose swallowed hard, heart hammering. "Careful," he said, almost a whisper. It's easier to misstep when emotions run high. She looked up at him then, and for the first time, their eyes locked in a silent challenge. Something unspoken passed between them, tension, curiosity, desire. A pull neither could deny, though neither would act on it fully, not yet. Rose felt her wolf stirring beneath her skin. Not from danger, but from the electric charge in the space between them. She took a step back, shaking off the moment. And yet every nerve remained alive, humming. Cassian tilted his head, studying her. He said nothing. But the smirk returned, subtle, teasing, as if he knew exactly what he had done to her pulse without touching her once. For a long moment, the room held only silence. The soft hum of moonlight. The faint rustle of leaves outside. And the invisible thread of tension weaving between them. Finally, Tala spoke, breaking the spell. "You should rest. Tomorrow we begin proper training." Rose exhaled sharply, feeling both relief and disappointment. She didn't want to leave the charged space between them. Yet the moment had passed, for now. She knew one thing, whatever Cassian was, it was nothing she could ignore. And that realization made her pulse quicken all over again. As she settled back onto the mattress, moonlight brushing her face, she realized the sanctuary was not just a place of healing. It was a place of awakening, for her power, for her independence, and perhaps, in time, for something far more dangerous, desire. Cassian waited at the edge of the training circle. He watched her with the same steady intensity he always used when observing the pack. Not hungry. Not possessive. Attentive. Rose stood barefoot on cold stone. Her breath fogged in the air. Her hands were clenched into small fists at her sides. She felt raw. Vulnerable. Ready. "You start with your breath," Cassian said. His voice was low but clear. He did not move closer. He did not reach for her. He wanted her to find her center on her own. Rose inhaled slowly. She counted the rise of her ribs. She let the shadows inside her gather like a tide. Moonlight trembled along the edges of the courtyard. "Let it come without fear," Cassian coached. "Don't force the shift. Invite it." She thought of the Moon Priestess' words. "Unlock without fear. Let the moon and shadow merge willingly." Rose pushed the memory of Garvin away. She pushed the sting of rejection like a stone into the river. She pressed her palms to her chest. She focused on the warm pulse beneath her ribs. At Cassian's instruction, she relaxed her shoulders. She let the shadow loosen at her throat. She steadied her breath until her inhale and exhale matched the rhythm of the moon. Something moved beneath her skin. A slow stirring. Not a full shift. Not yet. But movement. A promise. Cassion's eyes softened. He nodded once. That's it, he said. Feel it. Don't fight it. Rose closed her eyes. She let the shadow flow through her hands like cool water. She felt it curl around her ankles. Wrap itself like a cloak. Cassian stepped a single pace closer. Close enough that she felt the warmth of him behind her. Not pressing. Not claiming. Supporting. His presence steadied her rather than unbalanced her. It surprised her how safe it made her feel to have him near. Guide me, she whispered. She did not ask for pity. She asked for instruction. He placed his hand lightly on her shoulder blade. The touch was brief. Intentional. Gentle. It anchored her. Listen to the wolf, Cassian said. Listen to the part of you that does not need permission. Rose let out a slow breath. A low sound rose from her chest. Not a full howl. Not a roar. A vibration. The first honest sound of her wolf answering. The courtyard seemed to lean in. Leaves held their breath. Moonlight sharpened. Cassion's hand moved from her shoulder to rest near her wrist. He did not hold her. He offered steadiness. His proximity sent a line of heat along her arms. Her eyes opened. He was closer than expected. His face was in soft focus. She could see the dark lashes, the faint tension at his jaw, the small scar by his ear. They met each other's gaze. Not teacher and pupil in that moment. Not strangers either. Something like permission passed between them. Cassion's thumb brushed the back of her hand. A touch meant to reassure. It lasted a heartbeat, then lingered. Rose felt the world narrow to the space between their hands. Her pulse thudded in her throat. She wanted to pull away. She also wanted to lean in. Cassion's voice dropped. Tell me to stop, he said softly. Her throat closed. She did not say the word. Instead she leaned forward a fraction. Their faces hovered inches apart. Warmth from his breath touched her lips. The moment stretched thin and perfect. Then a sharp howl split the night. A sound of anger or pain or both. It cut them apart. Cassian flinched, protective instinct snapping into place. He stepped back and turned toward the sound. But his eyes did not leave her. Garvin, he muttered, more to himself than to her. Rose exhaled, the spell broken. She felt disappointment and relief moving through her at once. Cassian glanced back at her. His expression was a complicated thing. Respect. Curiosity. Something that looked a lot like desire. Rest, he said. You did well for your first attempt. We will start again at dawn. She watched him move away, held for a second on the edge of the courtyard. Then he left, like a shadow folding back into darker shade. Rose stayed standing. Moonlight poured over her shoulders. Her wolf had stirred. Not fully shifted. Not yet. But she had done what mattered. She had tried, and for the first time since Garvin, the attempt was her own. Chapter 12. Rose woke before dawn. The sanctuary was still wrapped in pre-dawn darkness. Tala slept curled beneath a moss blanket, soft breaths rising and falling. But Rose's body hummed with restless energy, the echo of last night's almost shift, and the near kiss that still burned behind her ribs. She slipped outside. The courtyard was empty, silvered by moonlight fading into the pale blue edge of morning. But she wasn't alone. Cassian stood shirtless at the far end of the training circle, practicing forms with a short blade. Moonlight slid over the muscles of his back as he moved, slow, precise, lethal. He didn't look like someone performing drills. He looked like someone praying. Rose swallowed hard. Heat crept into her neck. She forced her steps to be steady, measured. He heard her anyway. His voice cut the air without turning. "You're early." Not surprised. Not bothered. Just aware. Rose crossed her arms. "You said training starts at dawn." "It does." He shifted into another form, a sweeping arc that ended with the blade pointed toward the ground. Then he turned to face her. His breath was steady. Sweat glowed faintly at his temples. "You could have slept longer," he said. "I didn't want to." Cassian's gaze flicked over her face, assessing, not judging. "Good," he said. "Power responds to hunger, not comfort." He stepped toward her. Each step slow. Controlled. He stopped just close enough that she had to tilt her chin up to hold his gaze. "Today, we push harder," he murmured. "No holding back." Rose didn't flinch. "I'm not afraid." "You are," he said quietly. "But you're also stubborn. That will make you dangerous." He tossed her a training blade. Her reflexes kicked in, she caught it before thinking. Cassian noticed. The corner of his mouth lifted in approval. "Again," he ordered. "Trust your instincts." He lunged. Wind rushed. She reacted too slow, their blades clashed, her wrists trembling from the impact. Cassian circled her. Not like prey. Like a teacher examining potential. "Your power isn't your enemy," he said. "Fear is." She exhaled, tightened her grip, and attacked. Strike. Block. Pivot. Cassian parried with infuriating ease, one hand behind his back, expression unreadable. "Stop thinking," he said. "I'm not. You're analyzing every move." He stepped in, faster than breath. His blade touched under her chin, a gentle but unmissable threat. "Don't track me," he whispered. "Feel me." Rose's pulse jumped. He lowered the blade, slowly, letting the tip skim down the line of her throat. Not cutting. Not claiming. Just awareness. The air between them thickened. Rose's breath hitched. She stepped back, too fast, and her foot slipped on damp stone. Cassian caught her. One hand gripping her waist. The other bracing the back of her head, his body solid against hers. Her palms pressed against his bare chest. Heat. Muscle. Every heartbeat. Too close. She froze, breath tangled in her lungs. Cassian didn't move. Didn't release her. His voice dropped, rough edges smoothed by restraint. "Like this," he murmured. "You let instinct lead. Not doubt." Rose swallowed. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You call this training. I call this awakening." His thumb brushed her waist, not a caress, not quite accidental. Her wolf surged, responding before thought. Something flickered in Cassian's eyes. Not lust. Recognition. He released her slowly, fingers dragging just enough that she felt the absence of his touch when he stepped away. "You're getting better," he said. "But the real test is next." Rose steadied her breathing. "What test?" Cassian pointed toward the far end of the courtyard, where swirling moonlight began forming into something solid. "Shadow. A creature of smoke and instinct. A test made just for her. Control it," Cassian said. "Or be swallowed by it." Rose lifted her chin, eyes burning with challenge. "Watch me." A slow smile ghosted across Cassian's lips. "Oh," he murmured. "I am." The shadow construct rose from the ground like smoke taking shape. Fluid, shifting, alive. Eyes like molten silver opened in the dark mass and locked on Rose. It wasn't a real creature, Tala had explained that earlier. But it was strong enough to injure her. Cassian stepped beside her but didn't touch her this time. He kept just enough distance to make her feel both supported and watched. "Remember," he said. "Shadow responds to emotion. Moon responds to intention. Balance them." Rose's heart hammered. The creature growled, its form rippling like black fire. She took a step forward and the shadow lunged. Fast. Too fast. Rose dodged and rolled, feeling the air slice past her jaw. Her palms hit the ground and instinctively, the shadows responded. Dark tendrils curled from her fingertips, reaching for the creature. Cassian's voice echoed behind her. "Good. Don't force it. Invite it." "Invite it?" She gritted her teeth and stood. The shadow circled her, mirroring her movements, waiting for her weakness. Fear crawled along her spine. "You've never been strong enough." Garvin's voice. Memory. Poison. Rose shook her head. "Not anymore." She lifted her hand, focusing not on fear, but on the sensation she felt earlier when Cassian touched her. Steady. Present. Aware. Moonlight pulsed beneath her skin. The shadow lunged again. Rose didn't run. She reached. The shadows shot from her hands like ribbons, controlled this time, weaving around the creature's limbs. Cassian exhaled, quiet but impressed. "Now guide it," he said. "Guide. Not fight." The creature thrashed, but Rose refused to let her fear lead. Instead, she pictured a thread of moonlight, calm and steady, running through her fingertips. Her power shifted. Shadow obeyed. The creature lowered its head. Cassian stepped closer, his voice low and rough. "You're doing it, Rose." The praise hit her harder than she expected. Her chest tightened. She wanted to turn to him, to see if he meant it. But the creature pushed against her hold and shadows trembled. Her control slipped. Fear punched through her. In an instant, the shadow snapped its bindings and charged straight at her. Rose's power faltered. "Rose." Cassian moved. But it wasn't Cassian who reacted first. It was her wolf. A surge of instinct and heat ripped through her, the same burning electric sensation she felt the night he caught her. Rose raised her hands. Moonlight exploded from her palms. Bright. Blinding. Controlled. The shadow shattered into smoke and dissolved into the air. Silence fell over the courtyard. Rose stared at her hands, chest rising and falling rapidly. Did that actually work?" Cassian stepped toward her slowly, as if approaching something dangerous and beautiful. "You didn't just control it," he said. "You commanded it." There was no teasing smirk now. Only awe. Rose's breath shook. "I thought I lost control." "You didn't," he said. "You found it." He reached out and gently cupped the side of her face, a touch softer than anything she had ever known. He didn't kiss her. But the way his thumb brushed her cheekbone? It felt like one. "I told you," Cassian whispered, "your power isn't the threat. Your doubt is." Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever looked at her like she wasn't too late, too weak, too broken. Cassian stepped back, but his gaze remained locked on hers. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "we push further." Rose nodded, though her heart was still racing. Because she hadn't just survived training. She had awakened something inside her. Her power. Her wolf. And something far more dangerous. The pull toward a man who wasn't her mate, but who saw her in ways Garvin never did. Chapter 13. Garvin's POV. Garvin jolted awake. Sweat clung to his skin, breath ragged, heart slamming against his ribs like it was trying to escape. His wolf clawed inside his head, pacing, restless, growling. He'd seen her again. Not a memory. A vision. Rose, bathed in moonlight, shadows bending to her command, power curling around her like living flame. She looked nothing like the Omega he'd rejected. She looked untouchable. Garvin dragged a hand through his hair, squeezing his eyes shut as pain stabbed through his chest, sharp, twisting, unnatural. Mate bond pain. He knew the stories, but this wasn't supposed to happen. He had rejected her. He should feel nothing. His wolf snarled, "We never wanted to reject her." Garvin punched the wall beside his bed, cracking the wood panel. "I don't care what you wanted," he snapped aloud, breathing hard. She was weak. She had no wolf. His wolf answered with a brutal surge of agony that forced Garvin onto one knee. Not physical pain, emotional. Bond pain. Visions of Rose blurred through his mind again, her lips parted as she gasped for air. Her eyes, silver, glowing, her body surrounded by shadows that moved like they belonged to her. The power radiating from her felt nothing like the timid girl who used to bow her head and avoid eye contact. This Rose was fire. Alive. Desired. Claimed? The thought ripped through him, sending another shockwave of pain into his chest. Garvin staggered to his feet and slammed his fist into the mirror. Glass shattered, splintering across the floor. From behind him, the door burst open. His beater, Magnus, stared wide-eyed. "Alpha, what the hell is happening? The guards heard you." Garvin cut him off, voice rough. "I saw her again." Magnus froze. Rose. Garvin hated the way the name softened in Magnus's mouth. "Yes," Garvin snarled. Magnus stepped closer, face drawn with confusion and something darker. "You rejected her. You should feel nothing." Garvin pressed a hand to his chest, body shaking. "I feel everything." His wolf growled inside him, "Go to her. Claim her." Garvin hissed out a breath. "She left us. She ran." Magnus met his eyes, voice low and cold. "No, Alpha. You pushed her out." Garvin's jaw tightened, but before he could answer, pain ripped through him again, sharper, deeper. He gripped the edge of the dresser to stay upright. Magnus stepped back, alarmed. Garvin, what if she's forming a new bond? Everything inside Garvin stopped. A new bond. His wolf let out a furious, broken howl in Garvin's mind. A sound of loss. A sound of rage. Garvin slammed Magnus against the wall, eyes blazing with golden fury. Tell me where she is. Magnus swallowed. We can't track her. It's like the moon itself is blocking her scent. Garvin's voice dropped to a growl. I don't care if I have to burn forests and tear down borders. He leaned closer, voice lethal. I will find her. Because the one thing the moon goddess gave him was slipping away. And for the first time since he rejected her, Garvin felt something he didn't understand. Fear. Rose POV. Rose couldn't remember the last time she laughed. But Tala had a way of making it happen, gently, without effort, like laughter was something natural instead of unfamiliar. They sat together near the healing springs, her skin still warm from training, shadows dancing lazily around her feet like obedient kittens. Tala sprinkled moon petals across the surface of the pool, creating tiny ripples of silver light. You know, Tala said with a grin, you look less like someone who escaped a pack, and more like someone who escaped a bad marriage. Rose snorted, water slipping from her fingers. It wasn't a marriage. Tala nudged her shoulder. Didn't stop him from acting like a husband. Rose froze, breath caught in her throat. No one had ever said that out loud. She hadn't realized how much truth could sting. But Tala continued, softer now. You're allowed to be angry. Or sad. Or both. Rose swallowed. I don't want him to have that power. Then stop giving it to him, Tala replied gently, and flicked water into Rose's face. Rose gasped. Then, she laughed. Really laughed. The sound echoed across the springs, warm and alive. Tala beamed like she'd won a small victory. Rose didn't know someone could care for her without wanting something in return. It felt foreign. It felt safe. A subtle shift in the air made Rose turn. Cassian stood at the end of the stone walkway. Silent. Unmoving. Watching. Moonlight carved clean angles along his jaw, cutting through the cold edge of his expression. His eyes moved slowly, not to the water, not to Tala, but to Rose. She felt the moment he saw her laugh. His chest lifted with a subtle breath, almost as if the sight startled him. Tala noticed him and smirked. Well, look who finally stopped lurking in shadows. Cassian ignored her entirely. His gaze remained locked on Rose. Rose straightened, water slipping down her arms, heart thudding far too fast. She suddenly became aware of the wet strands of hair clinging to her neck, the soft glow of the springs lighting her skin. Cassian walked toward her. Every step measured. Controlled. Predatory. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that she had to tilt her chin to meet his eyes. There was no teasing smirk this time. Just intensity. You laughed, he said quietly. Rose blinked. Is that a problem? Cassian's eyes darkened, something dangerous flickering beneath the calm. No, he said. It's rare. Rare. Not weak. Not annoying. Not wrong. Rose didn't know how to handle that kind of attention, not when it was so open. So honest. Tala stood, brushing off her palms. I'll give you two some space. Rose glared. Tala. but the healer only winked and disappeared up the steps. The moment she was gone, silence stretched between them. Cassion's gaze softened, just barely. "Training today was different," he murmured. "You weren't trying to prove anything. You just were." Rose dropped her gaze to the water. "I don't know who I am yet." Cassian stepped closer. So close the heat of his body brushed against her bare shoulder. "You're becoming." The word settled over her like a promise. Rose looked up slowly, and the world narrowed to silver eyes. Cassian held her gaze, and something unguarded slipped through his expression. Something he'd been holding back since the moment she arrived. "I didn't think I could care about someone I don't understand," he said. Her breath hitched. He didn't touch her, but the tension between them was so tight she swore her heartbeat echoed in the space between their bodies. "Care," she whispered. Cassian exhaled, jaw flexing, as if saying the truth cost him. "Yes." The air shifted. Rose felt it, in her pulse, her breath, her wolf stirring beneath her skin. Cassian didn't move closer. He didn't have to. The wanting was already there. Alive. Electric. And as Rose looked into his eyes, for the first time she realized. Someone saw her worth before her power. And that terrified her more than anything. Chapter 14. Rose POV. The morning tasted like cold mist and possibility. Rose stood barefoot on the smooth stone beside the training springs, fingers curled around the edge of Cassian's cloak. The sanctuary was quieter than usual. Wolves usually trained at dawn, but today Cassian had requested a private session, which should not have made her heart race. Cassian watched her from a few paces away, arms crossed over his chest. His presence was a storm contained in muscle and restraint, calm on the outside, wild underneath. "Again," he said, voice low, steady. Rose inhaled slowly and let her shadows ripple along her arms. They responded easier now, not frantic, not uncontrolled. Like they recognized her. She focused. Shadows flickered. Then held. Cassian stepped closer, too close, studying the shapes that curled from her skin. "You're breathing too shallow," he murmured. "Your wolf needs room. You have to let her in." Rose tried to exhale slowly, but Cassian's nearness made thinking harder than shifting. His scent, pine and rain, wrapped around her like a touch she wasn't prepared for. "I am breathing," she whispered. Cassian leaned down, voice brushing her ear. "No. You're surviving." The words hit deeper than they should have. Before she could respond, movement caught her attention. A small wolf, barely 12, bolted across the training ground, panic in every line of her trembling body. Her shift was unstable. Bones contorting. For rippling. Half wolf, half human. She stumbled, claws dragging across stone. Rose froze. The air filled with the sound of terrified whimpering. Tala rushed toward the girl. She stuck between forms, someone calm her. But Cassian didn't move. He looked at Rose, not a command. A question. "Are you ready?" Rose stepped forward before she could think. The young wolf thrashed, frantic. Rose's heart pounded. She remembered being that helpless. That terrified. She remembered Gavin's voice hissing, "Don't shift unless I say so." Her palms tingled as her shadows responded instinctively, gentle, like soft ribbons. Rose knelt in front of the girl. "Hey," she whispered. Calm. Steady. You're okay. I've been where you are. The wolf snarled in fear. Rose didn't flinch. She extended her hand, close enough to touch, but she didn't. She offered. Breathe with me, Rose whispered. In and out. The girl tried. Breath warbled. Rose let her shadows wrap around the wolf in a soft halo, not restraining her, guiding her. The girl's trembling slowed. For rippled once, twice, then with a soft exhale, she settled fully into her wolf form. The tension snapped. Tala let out the breath she'd been holding. The girl nudged Rose's hand with her tiny muzzle, grateful, trusting, before bounding away. Rose stood slowly. Cassian hadn't moved. He was staring at her like she had just rewritten the laws of nature. You didn't hesitate, he said quietly. Rose swallowed, heat flushing her chest. I knew what she needed. Cassian stepped closer. No dominance. No authority. Something softer. Do you know what this means? Rose shook her head. You didn't just calm her, he said. You led her. The words echoed inside her, impossible and overwhelming. Led her. Rose had never led anything in her life. Cassian's fingers brushed her forearm, slow, deliberate, grounding her. Power isn't always teeth and claws, he murmured. Sometimes it's the one voice someone trusts when they can't find their own. Their eyes locked. Something shifted. Not power. Not training. Something human. Something dangerous. Rose's heart pounded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. Cassian's voice dropped lower, barely a whisper. You are not becoming strong, Rose. He leaned in, not touching, but close enough that every breath felt shared. You already are. Her shadows flickered around them, and for the first time, they didn't hide her. They crowned her. Cassian POV. Cassian pretended to focus on the training log spread across the stone table in the council chamber. But all he could think about was her. Rose. The moment she stepped toward that panicking young wolf, something inside him cracked open, something he had no right to feel. He had seen warriors freeze. He had seen experienced fighters hesitate. But Rose? She moved without fear. Without ego. She moved from instinct. From compassion. Cassian rubbed the bridge of his nose, trying, and failing, to steady his breathing. She is dangerous. The moon priestess's voice drifted beside him, calm and knowing. Cassian didn't turn. Dangerous people don't risk themselves to save others. Sometimes, she replied softly, the greatest power is the gentlest hand. He swallowed hard. That moment at the springs kept replaying. Rose kneeling. Whispering. Guiding the young wolf through chaos with nothing but her voice and steady heart. Cassian had always believed strength was born from control. But Rose had shown him another kind of strength, born from vulnerability. Born from care. The moon priestess spoke again, voice quiet and almost amused. You're losing objectivity. Cassian stiffened. No. I'm observing. You're falling. His breath caught. I don't. She steadies you, the priestess continued. And you steady her. Cassian closed his eyes. He hated how true that felt. He should have kept his distance. He should have maintained the line. But when she laughed earlier, he felt it. In his bones. In his chest. He pushed away from the table and strode out into the open air. He knew exactly where to find her. The Moonlight Springs. Rose sat alone on the edge of the pool, her feet drifting in the water. Shadows curled around her ankles like living silk. Moonlight kissed her skin, soft, ethereal, untouchable. She turned when she didn't move away. "I wasn't strong today," she said quietly. "I just didn't want her to be afraid." He turned his head toward her, voice low and rough. "That's what makes you strong." She looked down, emotions flickering behind her lashes. Cassian reached out, not to touch, but to hover a hand near her cheek. Close enough to feel her breath. Close enough that if either of them leaned even slightly, their lips would brush. Her pulse fluttered beneath her skin. His voice was barely above a whisper. "You think strength is loud. Brutal. Dominating." Rose's breathing quickened. "But real strength," Cassian said, his voice shifting into something intimate, unfiltered, "is choosing gentleness when the world expects you to shatter." Rose swallowed, the air trembling between them. "You don't have to treat me like I'm fragile," she murmured. "I don't." Cassian leaned closer. "I treat you like you're powerful." The moment stretched, magnetic, charged. Her breath hitched. His control snapped. Cassian reached up and gently brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. Slow. Intentional. Rose's lips parted on instinct. He stopped, just before touching her cheek. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. Rose didn't move. She didn't speak. Her shadows curled around his wrist, not pulling him away, but pulling him closer. Cassian's voice turned ragged. "You have no idea what you do to me." Her whisper trembled. "Then show me." His restraint nearly broke. Nearly. He lowered his forehead to hers, breath mingling, heart racing, but he didn't kiss her. "Not yet." "I will," he said, voice shaking with the effort of holding himself back. "But not until you know you deserve more than someone who broke you." Rose closed her eyes. Her voice was barely a breath. "And what are you, Cassian?" He lifted her chin gently, forcing her to meet his gaze. "I am someone who refuses to hurt you." The tension between them snapped like a stretched thread. Not with touch. With truth. And it was more intimate than any kiss could have been. Chapter 15 POV, The Bond Tremor. The sun was barely rising, spilling soft gold across the sanctuary. The forest shimmered with dew, and the air smelled of moss, earth, and the faint tang of distant rain. Rose stretched, feeling the warmth of her muscles from training yesterday, but her mind was elsewhere. Cassian's presence lingered like an echo, every brush of shadow, every shared glance replaying in her mind. She shouldn't think about it. She shouldn't think about him. But she did. She shook her head and focused. Today was about control. About strength. About proving that she wasn't just surviving anymore. Tala was already waiting near the springs, humming a soft tune as she prepared healing infusions. The gentle woman glanced up and grinned. "Ready for round 2, she teased. Rose gave a small smile. "I suppose I have no choice." Cassian emerged from the shadows behind the trees, every step deliberate. His eyes found hers immediately, and she felt that same pull, the one that had nothing to do with fear or power, but everything to do with attention. "Today," he said, voice low, "we focus on your control. Not just of your wolf. Of yourself, calm, precise, intentional. Rose nodded. She couldn't look away from him. Not fully. Not yet. They began slowly. Cassian demonstrated a series of movements, stretch, shift, pulse of shadows, and Rose followed, shadows reacting quicker than ever. She realized her body remembered, even when her mind doubted. A sudden misstep nearly unbalanced her. Her wolf inside whimpered, impatient, wanting to surge. Cassian's hand brushed hers lightly, just enough to steady her. Heart hammering, Rose's breath caught. His fingers lingered, unintentional yet deliberate. Focus on me, he murmured. Feel the rhythm. Not the fear. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, reacting not to danger but to the electricity of his presence. The world narrowed to the space between them, the small, deliberate touches, the brush of his hand, the weight of his gaze. Her shadows responded, swirling softly around her, a halo of silvery light. She could feel her power pulsing through her, alive and vibrant. You're improving, Cassian said quietly, voice thick with emotion he didn't want to admit. But you're not just learning control. You're becoming. Rose's stomach twisted at the word. Becoming. But she wasn't finished yet. Not fully. You're calm, he continued, stepping closer, so close that she could feel the warmth radiating from his chest. And still dangerous. That's new. A blush crept over her cheeks. She forced herself to look away, but shadows curled around her ankle like they knew something she didn't want to admit. She started, but he cut her off with a low, soft laugh. Don't say anything. Just be. Her heart raced, every nerve alive. The tension between them was thick, heavy, intimate. He wasn't just observing anymore, he was feeling. She could sense it. Suddenly, the air shifted. A subtle tremor ran through her chest, not of fear but of the mate bond she and Gavin had shared. She froze. Her pulse stuttered. Cassian noticed immediately. His hand hovered near hers again, waiting, protective, patient. Rose, he said softly, voice careful, aware. You feel that, don't you? She didn't answer. He leaned closer, just enough that their shoulders brushed. Whatever that is, he said, it's not you. Not what you've become. Her shadows stirred at his words, wrapping lightly around them both, as if acknowledging a silent vow. Rose exhaled slowly, trying to reclaim herself. Her wolf stirred inside, not anxious, not afraid, but curious. Curious about him. Curious about this tension, this pull. Cassian's gaze softened, almost unbearably gentle. You don't have to face it alone, he whispered. She looked up at him, heart thrumming, and realized she wanted him there. Not to protect her. Not to control her. Just to be there. Her voice trembled. I'm not used to someone seeing me. And wanting to stay. He smiled faintly, more honest than teasing. Neither am I. The wind rustled through the trees. Shadows danced over the water. Moonlight and sunlight mingled in silvery gold, like the world itself was watching. For the first time in a long time, Rose felt it, power. Freedom. Choice, and maybe a small, dangerous spark of desire. Wind whispered through the pines, carrying the scent of storm and wildflowers. The training field glowed with threads of morning mist. Cassian moved ahead of her, every line of his body balanced between stillness and power. Breathe with the earth, he said quietly. Let it pull you, not fight you. Rose tried. Her wolf pressed against her skin, restless but eager. For weeks she'd trained to hold it back, now she had to let it come. Her palms tingled, her heart pounded. Cassie encircled her slowly. Your shift isn't a battle, Rose. It's a remembering. The word slid through her, grounding and burning all at once. She closed her eyes. And then it started. Bones stretched. The air shimmered. Her shadows twisted into silver threads that curled up her arms. The wolf inside howled, not in pain but in liberation. Cassion's voice reached her through the noise. I'm right here. Don't be afraid of the strength that's yours. She gasped, halfway between two worlds. The surge of power was dizzying, intoxicating. Her knees buckled, and Cassian caught her. His hand settled on her shoulders, steady and unyielding. The contact was lightning, not lust, but recognition. Her eyes flashed gold for a heartbeat. The air around them pulsed. Good, he murmured. Stay with it. Don't hide. She drew in a ragged breath, every nerve alive. Her wolf's reflection shimmered faintly in the water nearby, silver-eyed, regal, utterly unbroken. When the glow faded, she collapsed forward, chest heaving. Cassian knelt with her, one arm braced around her back to keep her upright. You did it, he said. The hint of awe in his voice made her throat tighten. She looked at him, really looked. The fierce commander's mask had fallen away. What she saw instead was a man fighting his own storm. Her fingers trembled as they touched the fabric of his sleeve. I didn't think I could. You can, he said softly. And you will again. For a long, breathless moment, they stayed like that, too close, too aware, the silence between them humming with everything they hadn't said. Cassion's hand hovered near her cheek, hesitating. You don't know what you do to me, do you? Rose's heart stuttered. Cassian. He pulled back a fraction, eyes closing as if restraint cost him. You deserve the choice I never had. I won't take that from you. Her wolf whined inside, half protest, half gratitude. She swallowed hard, whispering, You didn't take anything. You gave it back. The confession hung between them, fragile and dangerous. Cassian drew in a slow breath, then stood, offering his hand. She took it, their fingers locking easily. Electricity thrummed again, softer this time, like a promise waiting for its right moment. Rest, he said quietly. Tomorrow, we see what your wolf can really do. As he walked away, Rose watched him, her pulse still echoing his words. For the first time, the bond she felt humming inside her wasn't pain. It was possibility. Chapter 16. The forest was quiet that morning, too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against the skin, thick with things unsaid. Rose stood at the edge of the Moon Priestess sanctuary, her cloak drawn tight around her shoulders. The mist curled around her boots like breath. Somewhere behind her, Cassian waited, watchful, tense, but she didn't turn. She couldn't. Because this moment wasn't about him. It was about her. The girl who once crawled through the dirt of Garvin's pack, who flinched at every command, who thought survival meant silence. That girl was gone. Now, the forest itself seemed to bow for the woman who had taken her place. Are you sure? Cassion's voice was low behind her. Always calm. Always steady. But she could hear what he didn't say, don't face him alone. I have to, Rose said softly. She turned to him, meeting his silver eyes. If I don't, he'll always own a part of me. And I'm done letting him. Cassian studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. Then go. But remember, he no longer defines your strength. She gave a small smile. He never did. I just didn't know it before. And then she walked into the fog. The clearing appeared exactly as she remembered. The same moss-covered stones. The same faint scent of pine and iron. The same ache in her chest, only this time, it didn't hurt. A dark figure stood in the center, broad shoulders squared, golden eyes burning through the mist. Garvin. He looked older somehow, haunted. His once commanding presence was frayed at the edges, as if the rejection that freed her had also hollowed him. Rose, he said, voice rough with disbelief. Her name sounded foreign on his tongue now. She didn't answer. She stepped closer, her boots sinking into the damp earth. Her cloak shifted, revealing the faint silver glow of her power beneath her skin, the moon's blessing alive within her. Garvin's breath caught. The stories were true. His eyes swept over her, confusion and longing warring in them. You changed. I grew, she replied quietly. He took a hesitant step forward. You shouldn't have run. I didn't mean for it to end like that. Rose tilted her head, studying him. You rejected me, Garvin. You made sure I had no place to stay. What exactly did you mean to happen? Garvin's jaw tightened. You were weak. You wouldn't have survived as Luna, but now look at you. He reached out a hand, tentative. You're strong. You could rule beside me now. We could. Stop. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the air like a blade. Garvin froze. Rose stepped closer, until the moonlight fell fully on her face. You don't get to rewrite the past just because you regret it now. He tried to smile, half pride, half desperation. You're still mine, Rose. The bond. There is no bond. Her words were final. Not shouted. Not angry. Just true. The bond snapped the day you said I wasn't enough. Garvin flinched as if struck. I made a mistake, he said. You are, everything. Rose's throat tightened, but she didn't cry. Not this time. She'd cried all her tears long ago. She looked at him, really looked, at the man who once held her heart in his hands, who shattered it without a thought. And for the first time, she felt nothing. No love. No hate. Only peace. I forgive you, she whispered. But I'll never belong to you again. Garvin's wool flickered in his eyes, raw and angry. Who changed you like this? That priestess? That soldier of hers? Rose smiled faintly. No. I changed myself, and in that simple truth, she won. A breeze swept through the clearing, carrying her scent, no longer submission and sorrow, but moonlight and shadow. The forest seemed to pulse with it, the air shimmering with quiet power. Behind the trees, unseen but present, Cassian stood. He didn't move. He didn't interfere. He only watched her face her past, and finally, walk out of it. Rose turned her back on Garvin, cloak billowing with the wind. Goodbye, Alpha, she said softly. And without waiting for a reply, she walked away. The forest erupted behind her. Branches snapped. A snarl tore through the mist, raw, desperate, animal. Garvin's wolf. Rose didn't turn, but she felt it, the wild energy, the broken tether that once bound them, now twisting in pain. Rose. His voice was no longer that of an alpha. It was a man unraveling. You can't walk away from what the moon bound. She stopped, her cloak whipping in the wind. The night air shimmered with silver light, her power rising instinctively in response to his rage. She turned slowly, meeting his gaze across the clearing. His wolf was half-formed, golden eyes burning through the shadow. But she didn't flinch. The moon didn't bind cruelty, she said softly. It only revealed it. Garvin growled, the sound guttural, broken. His body trembled, fighting a losing battle against himself, the rejection he'd once spoken now cutting back into him like a blade. You think you're free, he rasped. You think he'll love you? Rose's brow furrowed. Who? That soldier, Garvin spat. Cassian. The one who looks at you like you're something sacred. He doesn't know you like I do. Rose exhaled, steady and calm. You're right. He doesn't know the girl you broke. He knows the woman who rose from it. A low snarl tore from Garvin's throat. His wolf surged forward, but before he could reach her, a wave of shimmering light exploded between them. Moonlight and shadow. Perfect balance. The force threw Garvin backward, sending him crashing into the earth. He groaned, clutching his chest, the mate bond fracturing for the last time. Rose stood at the center of the storm, her eyes glowing faint silver, her breath slow and even. She wasn't attacking him. She was ending what had already died. I release you, she whispered. The words carried power, deep, ancient, final. Garvin's body convulsed. His wolf howled, a sound that echoed through the trees and faded into silence. When he lifted his head again, his eyes were dull, the golden light dimmed. The bond was gone. He looked at her, hollow and lost. What did you do? I freed us, she said. For a moment, neither moved. Only the soft rustle of the leaves broke the quiet. Then Rose turned and walked away, toward the sanctuary, toward her future. Cassian was waiting at the edge of the woods. He didn't speak at first, only watched as she emerged from the fog, her cloak torn, her face calm but unreadable. Their eyes met. It wasn't triumph he saw there, it was peace. It's done, she said quietly. Cassian's chest rose and fell. You did it alone. I had to. He stepped closer, slow and careful, until they stood a breath apart. His voice softened. And now? Rose looked up at him, the moonlight catching the silver in his eyes. Now. I learn how to live without fear. Cassian reached out, fingers brushing the edge of her cloak, a silent question. When she didn't pull away, he let his hand rest there, grounding, steady. You're not alone anymore, he said. Something flickered inside her, warmth, quiet and dangerous. She met his gaze, the space between them charged with everything unspoken. For the first time, she didn't run from it. That night, Rose stood on the balcony of her chamber, the moonlight bathing her in silver glow. She could still feel the remnants of power humming under her skin, but now it didn't hurt. It was hers, truly hers. Cassian joined her, silent as always. You freed him, he said. Yes. And yourself. Rose smiled faintly. That was the harder part. They stood in silence, the air alive with the pull neither dared name. Cassian turned to her, eyes softer than she had ever seen them. "Do you know what you've become?" he asked. She looked at him, heart steady. "Tell me." His gaze lingered, reverent. "Light and shadow. Strength and mercy. You are everything he feared, and everything I can't stay away from." Rose's breath caught. For once, she didn't hide it. The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of moonflowers. Cassian stepped closer. Not a command. Not a claim. An invitation. She didn't say yes. She didn't have to. Her silence, the way her hand brushed against his, was enough. Chapter 17. The dawn broke soft and gold over the mountains. Mist curled above the sanctuary, wrapping the trees in quiet light. Rose stood by the window of her small chamber, her heart still heavy from the night before. She had freed Garvin. And with that act, she had freed herself too. There was no regret. Only peace, the kind that came after a storm had burned itself out. When the summons came from the Moon Priestess, Rose followed without question. The temple sat high above the valley, its white stones glowing with morning light. Inside, the air shimmered with the scent of incense and moon lilies. The priestess waited beside the sacred pool, her silver hair loose down her shoulders. Her voice was soft but carried the weight of something ancient. "Rose of the fallen moon," she said, her eyes warm. "You have done what no Luna before you dared, you chose mercy over vengeance. You faced your fear and did not let it define you." Rose bowed her head, unsure how to answer. "I didn't feel brave. I just couldn't let hate win." The priestess smiled. "And that is why you were chosen. The moon does not demand perfection, only truth. You were never meant to be claimed by fate, child. You were meant to choose your own." The words lingered in the air, soft but powerful. Rose felt something shift inside her, as if a door long locked had finally opened. That night, she found herself walking through the moon garden. The flowers glowed faintly beneath the stars. The air was cool, whispering through the leaves. And there he was, Cassian, standing near the fountain, his dark hair catching the moonlight. He turned when he sensed her. His eyes softened instantly, and that familiar pull between them returned, gentle, magnetic, undeniable. "I heard about what you did," Cassian said quietly. "Freeing him." Rose nodded, her voice a whisper. It was time. He took a slow step toward her. "You could have left with him. You could have gone anywhere. But you stayed." Her heart skipped. "This is my home now," she said. "These are my people." Cassian's gaze held hers, steady, unguarded. "And me?" he asked. "What am I to you, Rose?" The question stole her breath. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The night hummed with their silence. Finally, she whispered, "You're the one who saw me when no one else did. The one who didn't try to save me, just believed I could save myself." Cassian exhaled, his jaw tightening slightly as if holding back something deep. He took one more step closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath. "Then don't trust love," he said softly. "Trust me." Something inside her broke, not in pain, but release. The walls she had built around her heart began to fall. Rose lifted her gaze, and before she could stop herself, she kissed him. It was not the desperate kiss of survival, nor the wild hunger of fate. It was slow. trembling. Honest. A kiss that felt like a promise and a beginning. When they pulled apart, Cassian rested his forehead against hers, his voice rough. "You don't need a mark to belong, Rose," he whispered. "You already do." And for the first time in her life, she believed him. The full moon hung low and wide above the valley, bathing the sanctuary in silver light. Every leaf seemed to shimmer, every breath of wind carried the scent of renewal. Tonight wasn't about coronations or bloodlines. It was about becoming. The wolves gathered in a silent ring around the sacred pool. The water mirrored the moon, glowing faintly blue. Rose walked through the crowd, her bare feet brushing against the dew-soaked grass. She wore no crown, only a simple white cloak, the color of healing and truth. Cassian waited at the edge of the water, dressed in black trimmed with silver thread. When he turned to her, his expression softened, the fierce alpha was gone, and in his place stood the man who had once taught her to stand tall. The moon priestess lifted her hands. "Tonight we witness not a union of power, but a vow of spirit. A Luna who leads by choice, not by claim." A hush fell. The moonlight shifted, forming a path of light across the water. "Step forward," the priestess said. Rose did. The water lapped gently at her ankles. When she reached the center, Cassian joined her, his steps steady, reverent. The moment their eyes met, the world seemed to still. The priestess's voice wove through the night. "Two wolves, once broken, now whole. Let the moon witness the bond born not of fate, but of faith." Cassian took Rose's hands. His palms were warm, his pulse strong beneath her touch. "I don't need the moon to tell me what's already true," he said quietly. "You're my equal, my anchor, my dawn." Rose felt tears sting her eyes. "And you're the proof that strength doesn't have to hurt," she whispered. "That love can heal without owning." The priestess smiled. "Then seal your vow." Cassian leaned forward, pressing his forehead against hers. Their breaths mingled, hearts beating in the same rhythm. Light surged around them, soft, silvery, alive. The bond wasn't carved into skin or soul, it bloomed in the space between them, gentle as dawn breaking after a long night. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the light expanded, rising like mist before fading into the stars. The priestess bowed her head. "It is done. The moon has accepted your truth." The pack howled then, long, powerful, united. The sound rolled through the mountains like thunder, but to Rose it felt like music. Cassian smiled, brushing a strand of wet hair from her cheek. "Look at them," he murmured. "Our pack." Rose laughed softly. "Our pack," she echoed. He cupped her face, his thumb tracing her jaw. "What now, Luna?" She looked up at the glowing moon. "Now, we live. We lead. And we make sure no one ever feels small again." Cassian's eyes gleamed. "Then the dawn belongs to you." He kissed her, slow, sure, beneath the rising light. And as the first rays of morning spilled over the valley, the wolves bowed their heads to their new Luna. Not a survivor, not a shadow, but a woman reborn. The end.